Hi there, Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles, the channel where we look at all things rock, different genres within rock, different artists, notable albums. We cover the lot here, and hope you guys are doing well as we head into winter here in Cape Town. See, we're going to have a bit of rain today, but enough of the weather forecast. Let's get on to the music. So we're going to carry on with our blues rock journey, and we're going to have a look at a Canadian guitarist today by the name of Pat Travers. Been around a while, and for me, he doesn't get enough credit. Him and guys like Frank Marino and Robin Trow, who we covered last time, Rory Gallagher, all these guys who gave so much to the rock world and are still giving to the rock world. Some great albums, very good live act, Pat Travers has played with some guys who've gone on to other things. And so let's jump in and see what I have. Tell you a bit more about the guy. He was born April the 12th, 1954 in Toronto, Canada. He's now 66 years old, still rocking, which is good to see. There's about 20 plus studio albums, so he's done quite a bit of work. Quite a few live albums. He's also done 4 albums with Carmen Appice, or Appice, never quite sure how to say his name. And he appears on numerous albums by other artists, so he's almost like a session muso. Hires himself out to other guys just to embellish their sound and what have you. His most recent studio album, called Swing, came out in 2019, which is quite cool because what he did was he took the whole swing era, the Benny Goodman, the big band stuff, Duke Ellington, and he did his own take on it with a nice bit of guitar in between, which is really cool to see. I like guys who like to stretch themselves, try something new, and for me it worked. Quite a cool album. Even if you're not into swing, it still rocks. It's got the Pat Travers stamp on it. So let's have a look and see what I have to show you. I don't have all of his albums, but I have a fair amount. And so let's jump in and we go all the way back to the early 70s. I think this was this was mid-70s, 1976. His first album, simply called Pat Travers. And this one would feature Peter Mars Cowling on bass. And he would be with Pat Travers for pretty much his entire career. Mars Cowling unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. So he's on 4-string bass, 8-string bass, and vocals. Roy Dyke, drums and percussion, and Pat Travers, guitar, keyboard, synthesizer, and lead vocals. And there's a shot of the guys. That's Mars Cowling, and that's Pat Travers, and that's the drummer over there. Pat Travers has also got a great voice for singing, great bluesy rock voice. Can really let it rip. This album, I think they were still finding their feet a bit. Not really great notable tracks on here. Besides, on side 2, Boom Boom, Out Go the Lights, which became a great live staple of the band. Maybelline, I think that was a cover. Hot Rod Lincoln, Stop and Smile, Feeling Right, Magnolia, the J.J. Cale track, nice version on here as well. So that was the first one, great debut album actually. The next one I have is the second album called Making Magic. And I think this was the album to feature, if I'm not mistaken, yes, none other than Mr. Nico McBrain, who of course went on to become the drummer for Iron Maiden. So we all have before we become famous, we all have our start, and for Nico it was in Pat Travers' band, amongst other bands. I think he was in a French band called Trust as well. And Peter Mars Cowling there, still on bass, and in the middle there's Pat Travers. So what do we have on here? Making Magic, Rock and Roll Susie, great up-tempo rocker, that would also become a favorite. You Don't Love Me, Stevie, which is actually a song about his brother who was having some issues at the time, and Pat thought he'd write a song about that and get it off his chest. Statesboro Blues, that great covers track, that blues number, Blues Rocker, which has been covered by so many different people. He does a great version on here. Need Love, Hooked on Music, also a great track. And What You Mean to Me. Definitely recommend this one, the second album. Excellent album. Let's just put that down there. Then we move on to the album called putting it straight. I love that cover. Rocking out with this really serious record exec in the back. And in the back cover, he's totally wrecked the joint and the guy looks a little bit surprised. So, what do we have on here? Life in London, that would also become a big rocking hit. Getting Better, Running from the Future, It Ain't What It Seems, Offbeat Ride, Speakeasy, Loving You. This is a great track. This is a real improvement from the previous two for me. Although the second one was good, Making Magic, but this one I think he's a bit more convincing in his production-wise, and you can see he's really getting the balls rolling. I just want to see who's in this lineup because, okay, so we still have Nico McBrain here, looking very suave there with his hat on. Definitely not what he'd be wearing later with Iron Maiden. And there's Pat Travers, and there's Mars Cowling, like I said, who'd been with him for quite a while. It's great in the vinyl, you get all the lyrics as well. What I like about Pat Travers is he could rock out, but he could also be really melodic. And a great songwriter, he's interesting lyrics. It's not prog rock by any means. It's not Bob Dylan lyrics, but it's just great for what it is. And you couldn't do better than Pat Travers for just good bluesy hard rock. And then we move on to one of the best live albums you're ever going to hear. Go For What You Know. This is just cranking. Put this on, turn it up to 11, and you can't do better than that. On this lineup, he had none other than Mr. Tommy Aldridge on drums. What am I saying? And of course, Tommy Aldridge would go on to play with numerous people. Black Oak, Arkansas was his first band that he was in, with Big Jim Dandy and all the rest of it. Then he went on to play for Ozzy for a while. He's been in White Snake. So he's done the rounds. Mars Cowling still on bass. And a guy by the name of Pat Thrall on guitar, who really added a nice extra guitar sound to the band to complement Pat Travers. And Pat Thrall also did an album with Glenn Hughes called Hughes Thrall, which was in the 80s. So you got some great guys on here. And what are the tracks? Produced by Pat Travers and Tom Allom. Tom Allom, of course, would do Judas Priest later on. So side one, Hooked on Music, Getting Better, Go All Night, Boom Boom, Out Go the Lights. Like I said, a great live track. Stevie, Making Magic, Heat in the Street, and Makes No Difference. Excellent live album. If you can find this, I recommend it. And then I think this was in the early 80s, this album, or at the end of the 70s, 77 maybe. Crash and Burn, this was actually the first Pat Travers album that I ever got. And he does on here, Crash and Burn, the title track's cool, Can't Be Right. And my favorite track of Pat Travers of all time, Snorting Whiskey and Drinking Cocaine. I just love those lyrics. A full-on rocker with a great riff from Pat Travers. And Tommy Aldridge is on drums here again. And he's got such powerhouse drumming. Mars Cowling on bass. That's a great sign. Then they do a really good version of Born Under a Bad Sign, that classic. Is This Love, the Bob Marley track, which you wouldn't think would be something that a blues rocker would cover, but he actually does a really good job on here. The Big Event, Love Will Make You Strong, Material Eyes. Really cool album. It's got a special place in my heart, obviously, because it was the first one that I got. And there's some great shots of the guys at the back there. Pat Thrall over there, and Pat Travers, and Mr. Tommy Aldridge behind the kit. We move on a bit. And this was in 1982. And the album called Black Pearl. There we go. There's the cover. So this one featured Pat Travers on guitar, vocals, keyboards. Mars Cowling on bass. Don Harris, piano, synthesizers. And Sandy Gennaro on drums. I'm not quite sure who he played for, but I know Sandy Gennaro was also quite a well-known drummer and he went to play on with some notable guys afterwards or before. Not the strongest album for me, a bit lightweight. Aren't really many great memorable tracks in here. Misty Morning, Angwana Quick Booty, that was a cool track. That was one of the different tracks on here. Slightly different take on it. I think he has an effect on his voice in that track. It really works well. Rocking, Who'll Take the Fall. Yeah, not bad, but as I say, not one that I reach for too often. And then we move, I think this was in the 90s. 1990, in fact. Jeez, the memory is not quite gone yet. This is quite a hard rocking album. It's called School of Hard Knocks. Cool title. The Fight Goes On, If You Want Love, that's a cool track. Some great drumming on here. I see who the drummer is here. Okay, I can't say this guy's surname. Scott Zamowski, I think, on drums. Jerry Riggs, guitar and vocals. Mars Cowling still on bass. And Pat Travers, guitar, keyboards and vocals. So The Fight Goes On, If You Want Love, that's cool. Purple Jazz, which is a kind of a Hendrixy take on Purple Haze mixed with a sort of a jazzy feel to it. Chevrolet is cool. Daddy Longlegs, that's a great track with some cool drumming. School of Hard Knocks, the title track's cool. And Guitars from Hell, which has got him really ripping on the guitar. I think he used to play a Les Paul quite a bit back in the day. Maybe a few other Gibsons. Cool album. And then just quickly, Pat Travers blues tracks. This is a Mike Varney production. Mike Varney, when he had all those shredders back in the 90s. This is from 1992. It features a guitarist called Michael Lee Firkins, who was actually also part of the Mike Varney stable. And he plays on here as well. This is basically a covers album of blues. So Memory Pain, Calling Card Blues, Spadesboro Blues, I Ain't Superstitious, Just Got Paid, which was the ZZ Top number, obviously. Not a bad album, if you can find that one. And there's a cool live album called BBC Radio Live in Concert. And this has got Pat Travers. And I just want to see who else is on here. There's a whole bunch of different guys on here. I think Mars Cowling is still on here. This was released. There's different release dates on here. 77 to 1980 and from 1992. Rock and Roll Susie, Life in London, Born Under a Bad Sign, Boom Boom, Out Go the Lights, Snorting Whiskey. Some good stuff on here. If you can find this one, BBC Live in London. Then this is one of the albums he did with Carmen Appice. It Takes a Lot of Balls. And there's the two guys, Carmen Appice, great drummer. Him and his brother Vinny. Better From a Distance, Taken, the Iguana song, that's very cool. Hey You, Stand Up, Can't Escape the Fire, Rock Me. Quite a heavy album. A very hard-hitting drummer, Carmen Appice. That's a very cool album. And then there's two here. These are actually one of the first, besides that one album, Crash and Burn, these were the two first CDs I got of Pat Travers. So we have Anthology Volume 1 and Anthology Volume 2. And this pretty much covers all the early hits. Evie, Gotta Fight, Killer, My Life is on the Line, Your Love Can't Be Right, Life in London. All the early hits and with all the different lineups, and it's really cool to get. I'm not sure if these are still available, but yeah, if you can, if you want to get a starting point for Pat Travers, maybe these two are the ones to go for. I'm just looking at the prices here and see how prices have changed over the years. Yeah, and not for the better. So there we go, Mr. Pat Travers, a great guitarist and a great singer as well. And he can really rock out. Great to see live. I'm not sure if there's actually an official live DVD. I must check into that because I wouldn't mind seeing him live. And I've seen a few things on YouTube, but it would be nice to get a complete concert. So the next band that we're going to check out, or the next artist, will be the great British blues rock band, or they started as a British blues rock band, White Snake, with the great David Coverdale on vocals. Of course, they changed their sound a bit later into the 80s. So I think maybe we're going to concentrate on the early stuff, but we'll see next time. Please, guys, if like and subscribe down below. If you enjoy the video, please let me know. Any suggestions will be great. And yeah, have a great week out there. Take it easy, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.